Taylor, Taylor, Taylor,
everybody. I thought I'd make a quick short video on a quick review on the Lucus Yeezy 350 V2 line that he has available. I have essentially 3 different versions that he has to offer. I've got the Oreos right here, I've got the breads, I've got the Beluga V1, and then back here, I'll go over that here in a second. These are the triple cream whites. Those are actually the PK God, and these are a perfect replica. These are about 160 bucks from perfectkicks.vip. I'll make a separate video on these, but these are essentially a perfect replica of the real V2s. So let's start over here with the Oreos. You know, they're pretty much spitting image. You might find minute differences, small issues here and there with maybe some of the stitching, or, you know, especially the boost on the bottom. The boost is probably the biggest factor that determines the differences between these. Starting with the cheap one, they look great. The details are amazing. The shape is right. The stitching is perfect for the most part. From what you can see, you'll never be called out. These are the, I think, the $70 ones, $70 pair, and I was extremely happy when these came in. These are actually the ones I bought for my wife. But these, I mean, she loves them. They're comfortable, they're light. The quote-unquote prime knit is pretty good on these, but they are not the most comfortable shoe that I've worn, especially out of these 4 right here. So for the money, this is probably the best cheap replica you can buy. It looks authentic, they feel authentic. They're not quite as soft, but I mean, actually they're pretty soft if I compare them to the PKs. But these are actually made with a UA Yeezy, something like that. So this is the original prime knit from the supplier that does the real Yeezy. So this actual material is the correct material. But for 70 bucks, I mean, this is probably the best value you'll get. I did notice that the heels will wear down the logo on the inside, so I used some packing tape to cover those up. But they're not quite as comfortable, and you can definitely notice a difference when you put these shoes on. The higher you go up in the tier of price, the better the quality and the more comfortable they are. Still not bad, still fairly comfortable. If you're on a budget, you won't be called out on these. I would recommend them to anybody that doesn't want to spend an arm and a leg, but they want quality material and a decently comfortable shoe. Moving on up, these are the $90 pairs. Both of these are $90. I actually bought the Belugas first. The Belugas, I like this colorway a lot. I did notice that on these, the shape is pretty much spot on, except for if you look at the back, they're a little bit wider. Oh, it's hard to tell on this, but they definitely feel a little bit wider when you're wearing them. So the tongue, you know, the rear tongue actually isn't that wide. It's pretty much spot on to these. But as far as the feel when you're wearing them, they do feel a little bit wider in the heel area, ankle area, I should say. Sorry. But the laces are spot on. They're perfect. They don't have that white dot like a lot of cheap replicas. The material is great. The details are perfect. The font is right. The only difference I noticed between these and the authentic, just by looking online and seeing video reviews of people's, they look identical. You won't be called out on these unless you're looking at the stitching that runs down the center. You know, it's a good stitch. And you can see in the rear, it's a good stitch. They've got the little small hump, not too big, but it's definitely there, just like the real ones. Tongue shape is right, but the stitching is actually darker than the Authentics. So these you can get called out on, I think, if somebody has these, which these are kind of a rare shoe to have. So I doubt you'll be called out. They look authentic. They actually feel authentic because these quote unquote have the real boost. These are a little bit dirty because I've been wearing these, but it's pretty much spot on. I mean, you're not gonna sit there and hand your shoe to somebody and say, hey, you know, check for authenticity, but the stripe is right. Sizes between, you know, people will call you out, even with real ones, if your stripe starts fading a little bit sooner, like on this one here, versus closer to the center of the toe cap. But fun fact, the real Yeezys are exactly like this between sizes like 8.5 to 9.5. I wear a 9.5. They do have the fade starting a little bit sooner versus closer to the middle. So these are spot on. The material's spot on. The feel is way more comfortable than the $70 pair. Even if I was on a budget, personally, just having worn all of these pairs right here, the reason I have two of these $90 pairs right here is because these are just as comfortable as the Authentics and the PK Gods right there, but they're only 90 bucks versus like 160. So highly recommend the $90 pair. I think it's the best value for the money. But everything's spot on. You can see what I'm talking about earlier. The logos have worn off completely. That's pretty common on shoes in general, but I mean, within a week, the logo is worn off. I don't know if they just can't nail that down. Let me show you these, the PK Gods. Those are starting to wear down. These are about a month old, but definitely stayed on a lot longer than a week compared to these. That's why I ended up taping these back here. You know, it's really funny. This one hasn't worn off, but the one in the right foot has. Interesting. Anyways, the Belugas, this is my favorite colorway besides the creams. I'm a little partial to all the white because you can match them with anything, but these are spot on. The shape, the feel is just like the real pair. The only difference, like I said, would be the stitching right here. The color of the stitching is too dark. On the authentic ones, the stitching is a little bit lighter. It's more of a gray silver versus just a gray. Has a more sheen look to it. If you look at the Authentics, or if you own a pair of the Authentics, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Moving on, $90 tier right here, another $90 pair right here. These are the Breads. These are spot on for what they are. I don't think the red is as bright as the authentic pair. They are still pretty flashy and pretty bright. The stitching on the rear tag is identical to the authentic pair, the retail pair. Real boost again. Very, very comfortable shoe, just like these over here. But like I said, the red is a little bit, it's not as vibrant as the red that's used on the authentic retail pair. And it's actually not even as vibrant on the SPLY. It's not as vibrant as the stitching on the rear pull tag here. But everything else is fine. Stitching is starting to come off. These are only about a week and a half old. Stitching is starting to come off up here, so I think I'm just gonna snip that. But other than that, I mean, the shape, the feel, it's spot on. You will never get called out for these because they're just solid black with red writing. Unless you own another pair or there's someone wearing some right next to you, nobody would know. But if you're buying any of these, you should know these differences right here. Because these can pass as authentic, especially if they're brand new, never worn. I mean, in the box and everything. I'm sure you've seen the unboxings of the Lucus shoes. The box is pretty much, you know, spitting image 1-to-1. There might be a little bit of a fade to the lettering, but I mean, for the most part, these are all 1-to-1 shoes, and they do a really good job recreating the retail version. But yeah, this is a $90 pair. These are the 3 pairs of Lucus that I own. So like I said, $70, $90, $90. And then back here are the PK Gods. These are the Perfect Kickstop VIP. That's where I bought them. PK Gods. This one I'll do a separate video on, specifically because I want to go over the differences between the PK Gods and the retail version, or lack thereof as far as differences go. These are 1-to-1. Even in, you can even see kind of in the light here, I don't know with the exposure on the phone, the camera, but they will illuminate under UV light, the boost and everything. It is spot on, 100% spot on to the real versions of the triple creams. And these are another one that's easy to replicate because none of the lettering is colored or contrasted like these here. Well, these are all black, but yeah, for the money, I've seen a lot of replica shoes out there, a lot of replica Yeezys. You'll definitely want to look at the Lucus ones as far as saving some money. If you're on a budget, don't have a job, whatever, definitely a good pair to look into are these. This is like size 8 in men's, I think it is. These are all 9.5. But these are a great budget option that don't make you look like you're wearing, you know, an Alibaba or DHgate fake shoe, you know, that cost you 45 bucks. These are, like I said, 70, but did a great job. The cutoff is great. The speckles are in there. As you can see, I've seen a lot of replicas that don't have the speckles in the Oreo like these do. You can see the stripes in there. Great job. Like I said, the boost is good, but it's not nearly as comfortable as the real boost in both these pairs and these pairs here. These ones that are 90 bucks feel just as comfortable as the $160 PK Gods. So, if you want my opinion, these are spot on. You'll never get called out. I'm not advocating buying replica or fake shoes or unauthorized. What I am advocating is to look out for all the differences between the real and the replicas. They are getting really good. Lucas has done a great job replicating these. So has PK God. Especially if you're looking at buying them third party from somebody, you'll want to know the differences. Like I said, this is a 1-to-1 shoe. The biggest difference looking at it really is that stitching. It's just not as bright on these, and then the red lettering is not as bright on these. Other than that, you could take the retail and put it up against it, not look at the lettering, not look at the stitching. You wouldn't know which one's the real one. They're just getting that good. So for 90 bucks, these are the ones I recommend. PK God if you want a real 1-to-1. These if you're on a budget. All right, you guys. Lucas is legit. I always go with DHL shipping with him because it takes about, 4 business days to 5 business days for that to get to me. I've heard horror stories about the China Express shipping or whatever else is offered just because it's not as reliable as a company like DHL. But check it out. PK God coming soon. These are the shoes from Lucas. Highly recommended. He's very responsive. He'll send you pictures of each and every shoe from different angles, including the boost, to make sure that you like them and that it's a good, good quality pair. Because this might be a good quality pair, 90 bucks, but he might have somebody that made one that might have a flaw, and he'll let you point out the flaw or say, hey, I don't like that one. Whatever reason it might be, he can pick out a different one from his selection. But if you have any questions, let me know. Check him out. Highly recommended. Thanks a lot for watching, you guys.